Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hey Guys. We're doing sewing again. Now, before when we did sewing, we only went over like threading a needle and stuff. Today we're going into much more depth. Today we're going to talk about cutting out our fabric, pinning it, and then we're going to move over to the sewing machine. I'm going to show you how to sew it all together. All right, so first step, I've already gone out ahead and marked out a line on my fabric. That is the proper width. Now I need to cut two pieces out of this, and since they're going to be the same width, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be able to get both pieces out of this. So I got a ruler, a pencil might be good. This is a pen. I'm going to mark out my one piece, and then I'm going to mark out my other piece. So for this particular project that we're working on, we're making a little pouch to go inside our bag. We're going to cut out two pieces, we're going to sew them together. Now, part of this process is going to include sewing all three seams, folding over the top and doing a hand stitch seam, and then having enough of an extra tab to sew into our larger bag. Now, you can see this material has a pre-done edge so that it doesn't unravel. You can see where it's already been cut. It's kind of unraveling a little bit. I'm going to make that be my long end that's going to sew into my bag so it doesn't come apart. If you can't quite get that the way your material is cut, it's all right. It's not going to make much of a difference, but you know, if you can, it's better. Now I'm going to tell you right now, these scissors are not that great, so I'm going to be making little cuts to get through this fabric. This is just a nice cotton canvas material, natural color. So it's pretty durable, and it'll be good for the next part of this project when we're all done sewing. We're gonna do a little screen printing. This way it will show up. So the nice thing about cutting with scissors, cutting fabric, is that you can go ahead and lay out multiple pieces and cut them. You don't have to worry about losing material in the cutting like you do when you're cutting wood or other materials with a saw. The scissor just makes a clean cut right down the line. And since we have a little extra that we're gonna have as be part of our, when we sew these together, it's not gonna matter if we're 100% perfect. All right, so getting down to the end of my cutting here. I got a little bit off the line, but that's okay. All right, so I got two pieces now. One's a little longer than the other. Like I said, I want to keep my piece that is a little bit longer. I'm going to keep that finished edge. This finished edge right here is going to be really nice. That's going to hold together. All right, so since I got this little fold up, I'm gonna go ahead and flip that over so it lays down a little bit flatter that way rather than sticking up. It's kind of getting pressed down. And I'm gonna grab some pins. And I'm gonna start by just pinning the corners. Okay, trying to keep it flat, lay it down, coming in. I'm gonna do opposite corners first just so that I can make sure that everything stays lined up properly. And then get the other two corners. And I think that that should be enough. You might want to stick another pin in the middle here, but I think we're close enough that we should be okay. All right. So now I've got my two pieces of material put together. They're all pinned up nicely. Got that edge on the top. We're ready to go to the sewing machine. Whoops. All right, so now we're here at the sewing machine, and I just accidentally hit the foot pedal, which is a problem. So the way this sewing machine works is there's actually two places for thread. One is found down here in the bobbin. That's a roll of thread, and the other is the thread at the top of the machine. Now, each machine will tell you how it's supposed to be threaded, and you just follow the directions, and it says, you know, to come down and loop around and come down, loop around this, come back up. What's important for you to remember Well, to make sure that's all right is that your thread is coming through the needle, being kind of held in place down here. And then outside of the needle, that your thread, oh, we've still got it kind of hooked around the bobbin here. That your thread is coming straight out the back. Get that going. So one length coming from your upper thread is going through the foot and out the back. And then that your bobbin thread is also coming up through the hole and going out the back. Now you only need a couple of inches of thread. I usually like to do about the length of the machine and then do those straight out the back. So let's go ahead and shut that. What happens is this thread loops around that, grabs that thread, pulls it up, and it kind of ties them in knots over and over again. Happens automatically, so it's pretty cool that way. All right, so we're all put back together. Now, down here on the floor is my foot pedal. The foot pedal is just like a gas pedal. The more I push it, harder I push it, the faster it goes. So what I want to do is, I know that I want a little bit of extra material right here that I'm going to fold over. Now I could measure that, and that's probably a good idea. We'll measure down and put a mark at, oh, let's say a ½ an inch, right? That's what we're going to fold over so we can do a hand stitch seam on the top. So that's where I'm going to start. On the sewing machine itself, you'll see a series of lines. The first line is about a ½ inch away from where the needle is. That's the line we're going to follow with our edge of our material. So as we bring our material up in here, we're going to find that line. We're going to get the edge of our material to ride right on that line. So the line's right here, edge of my material's right here. I'm lined up on my mark. And then if I reach back behind, there's a lever right underneath here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's up underneath this machine, and that drops your foot down. You gotta have the foot down. The foot keeps pressure on the material. There's a little kind of serrated thing that will grab your material and move your material through. And that's what you need to make the material feed through the machine. Now I'm going to start kind of slow. Give it a little bit of foot pressure. Sometimes it helps to get that going a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to hit the reverse button. And what that's going to do, it's going to go back and forth. And it's going to reinforce that beginning of that seam. Now it's important, I got a little bit off, not too good. You get to your pin, pull out your pin before you go over it with the sewing machine. Now, I'm going to then grab the machine down at the end where I want to make my turn. So, instead of cutting the thread loose, I'm just going to go ahead and pull up my foot and rotate my material. Now, my first seam wasn't the best seam, but maybe we can do better this time. So now I can put the foot back down, and now I don't have to do that back and forth because it's like one continuous seam. I'm going to try to get this one back on track just a little bit better. This switch doesn't have a lot of give in it. So notice I'm just going kind of nice and slow and easy. I'm coming up on my pin now. My pin's really in the way, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. Bring it down when I start to get near the end. Go one, maybe one more. We'll go right there. Lift my foot up, rotate around again. Now you can see, now normally I wouldn't use dark thread on this. I'd use thread that matched. but for this demonstration so that you can see the seam, I'm going with the darker thread on the lighter material. All right, so we're gonna go down, and what we're aiming for is that mark that we made, that 1/2 inch mark before we get to the pin. So I get right up to it, maybe one more. Good, now reverse. Reverse button's right over here. Gonna reverse that a few stitches and stop. Now, when you pull this up, when you pull the foot up, you should be able to pull the thread through. If it feels like it's not wanting to come, turn this little knob on the end. That's gonna kind of change the mechanics in there. I'm gonna pull out so I have a little bit of extra thread and snip it off. Now when I pull my pin, I should have a pouch sewn on 3 sides. We're gonna flip this around inside out so that we don't see those seams. And in the next video, I'm gonna show you how to hand stitch this little guy right there. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that's good help for you. Remember to like and subscribe.